It stands as a shimmering icon of love and light, the jewel of Paris. But in the darkest days of the 20th century, the Eiffel Tower was something else entirely. It was a silent giant, a steel-willed symbol of defiance that played a secret and surprisingly clever role in the fight against one of history's greatest tyrannies. This isn't just the story of a landmark, it's the story of a nation's unbreakable spirit, embodied in iron and ingenuity. It's the tale of how the Eiffel Tower outsmarted Hitler himself. Imagine the scene. June 1940. The jackboots of the German army echoed through the grand boulevards of Paris. The city of light has been plunged into darkness. Its heart occupied by the Nazi regime. For the Parisians, it was a moment of profound shock and humiliation. And for Adolf Hitler, it was a moment of supreme triumph. He had long dreamed of conquering Paris, of standing atop its most famous structure and gazing down upon his new domain. The Eiffel Tower was more than just a tourist attraction. It was the ultimate symbol of French culture and achievement. To conquer it was to conquer the soul of France. Hitler's planned visit was meant to be a grand spectacle, a propaganda masterpiece. He would ascend the tower, Führer surveying his prize. The photos would be plastered across the world, a definitive statement of his power. But the people of Paris had other ideas. They might have lost their city, but they had not lost their pride or their cunning. As the German motorcade prepared to sweep through the streets, a small, secret act of defiance was already underway, one that would rob Hitler of his moment of glory. It was a plan as simple as it was brilliant, a gesture that would tell the world that Paris had not surrendered its spirit. Before the German entourage even reached the Champs-Élysées, a group of French maintenance workers quietly made their way to the tower's machine room. Their mission was precise and risky. With practiced hands, they went to work on the complex machinery of the tower's elevators. They didn't destroy them completely, that would be too obvious and easily repaired. Instead, they meticulously severed the main lift cables, rendering the elevators useless. They made sure the damage looked like a complex mechanical failure, one that would take weeks, if not months, to fix, especially with wartime shortages of parts and skilled labor. They effectively grounded the tower. When Hitler and his generals arrived at the base of the Iron Lady, they were met with feigned apologies. The elevators were broken, Teiwari told, a most unfortunate and complicated technical issue. If the Führer wished to reach the summit, he would have to climb all 1,665 steps. Hitler, famously averse to strenuous physical exertion, was furious. He stood at the bottom, looking up at the peak he couldn't reach, denied his symbolic victory. He was forced to pose for photos on the ground, a conqueror cheated of his crowning moment. The famous quote attributed to the event, whether apocryphal or not, perfectly captures the spirit of the moment. Hitler conquered France, but he did not conquer the Eiffel Tower. The sabotage of the elevators was just the beginning. The tower's defiance would grow deeper and more significant as the occupation wore on. The Germans, of course, took control of the structure. They saw its potential not as a symbol, but as a tool. Its immense height made it the perfect antenna for their own communications. They installed a powerful television transmitter on the summit, broadcasting German-language programs and propaganda to their troops stationed in and around Paris. The tower became a mouthpiece for the occupying force, a constant, visible reminder of their presence. But what the Germans didn't know was that the tower was a double agent. While it broadcast Nazi propaganda by day, it was also secretly listening, hidden deep within the tower's structure. In a secret apartment originally built by Gustave Eiffel himself, a small team of French resistance fighters was at work. This clandestine group was part of the Source K network, a brave cell dedicated to intelligence gathering. They had managed to install their own radio equipment right under the noses of the German guards. From this secret perch, they had a unique and powerful advantage. The tower's height allowed them to intercept a vast range of radio signals. They listened in on German military communications, picking up vital intelligence about troop movements, supply lines, and strategic plans. They could hear conversations between German command centers across northern France. Every piece of information, no matter how small, was painstakingly recorded and then secretly transmitted to the Allied forces in Britain. The tower wasn't just a passive listener. It was an active participant in the war effort. The risks were enormous. Discovery would have meant immediate execution. Every day was a tightrope walk, smuggling equipment, decoding messages, and avoiding the ever-watchful eyes of the Gestapo. Yet, these brave men and women continued their work, transforming the tower from a symbol of occupation into a vital intelligence hub for the Allies. The very structure the Nazis were using to spread their message was simultaneously being used to orchestrate their downfall. It was the ultimate act of subversive irony, a secret war being fought hundreds of feet above the occupied streets of Paris. Beyond its secret military role, the Eiffel Tower remained a powerful symbol for the people of Paris. Every morning, they would wake up and see it standing tall against the sky. It was a constant, a landmark that predated the occupation, and when they prayed, would outlast it. On June 14, 1940, the day Paris fell, a massive swastika flag was hung from the tower. But a few hours later, it was blown away by the wind and torn, having to be replaced by a smaller one. For many Parisians, this was a small but significant omen. The tower itself seemed to reject the Nazi symbol. Even with the German flag flying from it, the tower's familiar silhouette was a beacon of hope. It reminded Parisians of who they were, of the culture and freedom that had been stolen from them. It was a promise that Paris would one day be Paris again. This symbolic power was not lost on the Germans. As the tide of the war turned and the Allies closed in on Paris in August 1944, Hitler issued one of his most infamous orders. He commanded General Dietrich von Choltitz, the military governor of Paris, to destroy the city, including all its major landmarks. The Eiffel Tower was specifically marked for demolition. Hitler's logic was cruel and simple. If he couldn't have Paris, then no one could. He wanted to leave behind nothing but rubble and ashes. The order was sent. Paris must not fall into the enemy's hand except as a field of ruins. The fate of the Eiffel Tower and the entire city rested on the decision of one man. General von Choltitz, faced with an order to commit an act of unprecedented cultural vandalism, made a fateful choice. He chose to disobey. He could not bring himself to destroy the beautiful city he had been tasked with governing. On August 25, 1944, Paris was liberated. As French and Allied troops entered the city, one of the first acts of celebration was to reclaim the Eiffel Tower. A group of soldiers and firefighters raced to the top. They tore down the Nazi flag and, in its place, hoisted a hastily stitched-together French track. And what about the elevators? Mysteriously, just hours after the liberation, they were working perfectly again. The French engineers who had sabotaged them 4 years earlier simply found the spare parts they had hidden away. The tower was once again open to the French people. The story of the Eiffel Tower during World War II is a testament to the power of quiet courage and clever resistance. It shows that defiance doesn't always roar. Sometimes, it whispers from a hidden radio room or manifests in a severed cable. The Iron Lady stood not just as a monument of steel, but as a monument of the enduring human spirit. It outsmarted, outlasted, and ultimately outshone the tyranny that sought to conquer it. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this piece of hidden history, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more stories from the past.